Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we've got our first locals video of the OP06 format in English. Today we've got in this video Red Purple Law versus Edward Newgate. Now we know all about Edward Newgate. We've seen Edward Newgate not only in these videos but through the test of time. But Red Purple Law, one of those decks that has increased in popularity and in skill as more sets have come out. When Starter Deck 10 came out, not necessarily a great deck, but somewhat viable. But now in OP06, much stronger with excellent additions such as Raise Max, Shariah, and many more. Both players in this one mulliganing, and we'll see exactly how their starting hands play out. Edward Newgate, I haven't seen a lot of people talk about this leader, this OP02 leader in the OP06 format too much. A lot of the attention on Sakazuki, obviously, Gecko Mora, and Anel. But first, I just want to say thank you so much to these players for allowing me to record their game, and then also thank you to Night and Day as well for allowing me to set up here and record gameplay as well for commentary videos. We've now got 2 shops that allow us to record commentary, so that means double the games hopefully on the channel. So expect more games more often of the OP06 format. And so here we go. 6 life. I'm sorry, I'm still not used to 6 life, and I don't see Whitebeard too much. 6 life on the right side and 4 on the left. Looks like Red Purple Law going first, and they're going to start off playing a Gordon. That film promo Gordon, very good in this Red Purple Law deck. Could be really good at getting threats away immediately. And so Newgate just going to draw a pass, take a life at 2 Dawn, not having any Ezos or anything to play down. So 3 Dawn now. At this point, not going to be using the leader effect, obviously. It'd be a little silly to do that right now, but just going to play that Shariah there. Shariah, a really great card, one of the new ones in OP06. Oh man, hopefully the brightness goes down a little bit on the camera. But with that, attacking or blocking can copy the power of a leader until their next turn. So a really good card in this deck, because with Shariah can copy these 6k leaders. So if the Newgate player decides to swing 5, they just copy the Newgate leader and swing 6. But starting out swinging 8 at that point and taking that life, they're just going to take it, put it in their hand, and then the Newgate player passing the turn, taking a life of their own. So Newgate not really doing anything and still leaving 2 Dawn open. So maybe having some radical beams or something in their hand, some guard points to play. We know those are very popular cards in the Edward Newgate decks. And now we move on to the Red Purple Law's turn. So they're just going to go slow as well and just block her up. I don't hate this plan overall for the Red Purple Law player to be able to just build a board of defense, and gonna actually be using leader effect, not necessarily for the bottom decking an opposing character, but getting that Reiju Vinsmoke in there. And so because of leader effect, gonna be less Dawn than their opponent, and they had enough cards in hand to draw off of that Reiju. So really strong card in this deck. Another great addition, Shariah and Reiju, great stuff in there. And then through the Kid effect, going to be getting a Dawn back, because when you do once per turn put a Dawn back into your Dawn deck, you do get to get a Dawn back and rest it as active from the Kid effect. So attaching that 1 Dawn to leader, and first swinging with the Shariah. The Shariah, when attacking, you may be wondering, oh my gosh, it's a 4k body though, why is it swinging at Edward Newgate? So the Shariah, when attacking, gets to copy the leader, and there's our judge just making sure that the reading is going on correctly with that card. That Shariah should be swinging 6k, copying the Edward Newgate leader. And so that Shariah going into the next turn going to be 6k as well. Everybody taking a gander at this card. It is a brand new card, and it is kind of a more complex in terms of the wording and stuff, a little bit more to remember, and not one that we've seen a ton of at the very start of the OP06 meta. So definitely an unfamiliar card, but going to just take that right there. And so another 6K swing coming in from the leader, so probably going to be countering somewhat in this one. You do maybe need to be careful if you're Edward Newgate, and maybe this is something that you don't really just worry about because it's kind of inevitable sometimes. Like when you're playing Uta, you definitely don't want to get purple lawed in this and 2 cards discarded from your hand, because especially as you're taking life and stuff, you're going to have more than 7 cards in your hand. But using that counter on the Nami to get out of that leader swing and going into the Newgate's turn. So now going into 6 Dawn now for the Edward Newgate. Gonna really need to start playing characters down, I feel like, at this point, even though you're kind of worried about them getting bottom decked. But gonna start off by swinging 6 at lead, and so could go ahead and block with the Eustace Captain Kidd, maybe 1K counter out of that, or if they have a 2K in hand, just use the 2K to go over the Newgate. And that's exactly what they're going to do, trashing that Otama. That Otama, a great card for red that we've seen since its release in OP01, pretty much a staple for most red decks. And so now continuing in this turn, kind of thinking about what they need to do in this one. It's kind of an intimidating board, to be honest. There's already a Gordon established to wherever you put a character down. It's going to get minus 3,000 more than likely. And so is that going to put it in range for the leader effect? The red purple law is going to go into, I believe, 5 Dawn for the turn at this point in their next turn. So going to be resting all the Dawn and playing that rush Sanji. That Sanji getting rush if your opponent has a 6,000 power or more character on the field. So with that, Shariah being 6K is just going to get that rush, and the Eustace Captain Kidd also getting 6, and the red purple law being like, you know what, I'm just going to counter out of this block. I don't want to give up too much life right now at this point. So 5 Dawn now for the red purple law. Newgate takes another life, only 2 life left, but still plenty of cards in hand, but no Dawn open. Going to start out by playing a Buena Festa. Buena Festa finding film cards, so very interesting. I don't think I've seen too many red purple law deck lists right now in the OP06 format play this. That Shariah that they're grabbing is a new film card that's coming through the OP06 set. So really cool interaction to find those Shariah. Shariah, a really good card to use through the leader effect and whatnot. Going to be bottom decking that Gordon to minus the Sanji there, and we could see a leader effect come down at this point. Probably want to play something else down though, and they are going to just raw play that Shariah there. Still have 1 active Dawn, but going to be going in using that leader effect and then bottom decking the Sanji to get that character off the field. And then once they play down a character from hand, if they so choose to, probably going to be playing over that Buena Festa, if I had to imagine. Yes, they're going to be playing another Rejuve Vinsmoke. So again, just showcasing the strength of this card. And in addition, 2 more cards drawn because of the effect, and with the Kidd, because you did use the leader effect to go back in deck, going to be getting another active Dawn. So 2 active Dawn overall. Going to be attaching 1 and swinging with the Reiju right there, just doing a lot of poke damage, I feel like, at this point. Not trying to swing super big, but just swing many, and they're going to be countering a 1K Nami on that 6K swing. Going to be swinging Kidd now. So really utilizing the blockers on the swings in this game. Very interesting strategy for this red purple law deck. Both very good offensively and defensively in this game. And so that 6K swing right there, the Newgate player thinking about what they want to do exactly. Again, no Dawn open because they rested all 6 with that Sanji. So any Radical Beam or Guard Point is a dead card in hand. We could maybe see a Bad Manners Course Kick, but they're probably just trying to eye up maybe a 1K counter to get out of this swing. So really deciding what they want to do. Now, I would imagine that the last Dawn is probably going to go to this Law Leader and another little chippy 6K swing. We could even see it used for the other, oh no, we couldn't see it for the other Reiju, but going to swing with the Shiraya first. So the Shiraya, again, becoming a 6K body after that 2K Makino counter, is just going to take a life, and a third 6K swing coming down. Going to be no more life for the Edward Newgate. Now going into their 8 Dawn turn. This is a duel and a half. Red Purple Law just really running away with this game at this point. Still has 3 life. Still has an active blocker as well. And whatever the Newgate swings, the Shirai is going to be able to block and then use a 1K counter to get out of it and keep that body alive. Very, very strong cards in this deck. Really exciting to see this deck in action to kick off the OP06 meta. So going to be resting 7, playing that ace. Going to be resting the 2 blockers that swung earlier, and going to be swinging 7 at the Eustace Captain Kid. And so that kid being at, or I'm sorry, maybe the Shiraya at this point. So the Shiraya going to be a 3K counter, because it copied the Edward Newgate, and so, or no, I'm sorry, swinging at the kid, probably just clarifying, swinging at the kid and the Shiraya. So swinging at that kid, the kid being 3,000 power, the Red Purple Law player says, you know what, I can let that go, it did its job, and maybe has another one in hand. Maybe that's why they didn't opt to save that kid. Going to be at 5 Dawn next turn, so could play another one down next turn if they do have one in hand. So still could swing with the Newgate. Has 1 Dawn left in this turn. We did suspect that the Newgate did have some sort of counter cards, counter event cards in hand based on their first couple turns. So maybe thinking about whether or not they want to commit this Dawn to the Edward Newgate and swing. Maybe thinking about also playing an Ezo potentially. The Ezo, we haven't seen one come down for the upcoming Edward Newgate turns. And so going to be attaching the 1 and swinging 7 at that Shiraya, but resting that Shiraya, the one that was active, and just using a 2K counter. So over countering a little bit in there, but now that Shiraya does live. And so 4 characters on the field, 2 of them Shiraya, 2 of them Reiju Vinsmoke. The Red Purple Law goes on. And so going into now the 5 Dawn turn, going to be drawing a card right there, and I can't exactly see what's in their hand. We don't have a good enough camera angle for this. Make sure to subscribe and watch the other videos on the channel if you want me to get enough ad revenue for a multi-camera setup. But going to start out by attaching 1 Dawn to the Reiju and another one to another Reiju. Not going to be any kids coming down, that 5 cost blocker kids, at least in this turn, because they committed the Dawn to the Reijus. But thinking about swinging the Shirayas potentially. Swinging 1 of the Shiraya, going to be a 6K swing as it copies the leader's effect, and going to be another 1K counter. And going really aggressive, says, you know what, I don't think I can lose this next turn, so I'm just going to swing, and swing. And so going to be playing the Raise Max. The Raise Max is going to make that ace card 4,000 power, -3, and has 2 Dawn left. If we see an Otama, they can use leader effect to bottom deck, and our judge just checking, making sure it's the right amount of power on that card. And so going to be attaching 1 to the Law, and it looks like they might be swinging at the ace there. Going to be, if they're swinging at the ace, it's going to be a 6,000 versus 4,000 power attack, but if it's at the Newgate, just going to be a 6 at a 6 there. So the Edward Newgate player really thinking about what they want to do. They still have a couple cards in hand, but it is dwindling because they had to counter out of 4 6K swings. And so thinking about how they want to do this could get very, very interesting in this one. So the red purple law player, I wonder if they're leaving that 1 Dawn open for the Otama. It wouldn't surprise me if they had an Otama in hand. I think it would be the 3rd Otama though in the game, and so maybe the likelihood of that is not very high, but could be also another Raise Max. It could be a Gordon. We do know that for red purple law, it is not uncommon to see 6 to 8 in combination of those 2 cards. So plenty of 1-cost minusing power effects in this deck overall. With the Otama, you could see anywhere from 10 to 12 different minusing 1-cost character cards. And so the Edward Newgate player really thinking about where they want to be in here. It might be swinging at the ace, and that's why they're thinking about what they want to do, because especially with that 1 Dawn left open and with that leader effect, we've seen them use it a couple times in this game. It could be one of those things that if they counter out of this and the ace doesn't die, so it was swinging at the ace. What I was going to say is it a waste of counter to counter out of that only to get bottom decked through the leader effect? So now, at least through the leader effect, right, if they use the leader effect, they've got 1 extra counter card in their hand if they so choose it. Or I guess it would be more, because it was a 6K swing into a 4K body, so it's actually like 2 cards, right? A 2K and a 1K. But anyways, going to be using that leader effect anyways. That was their plan all along. Wouldn't surprise me if we saw a Rush Zoro come down with that 1 Dawn left open. And so going to reminder that with red purple law, you don't actually have to bottom a deck a character in order to play that card down. And there comes that law. Going to be attaching that Dawn, swinging 6 at the Edward Newgate. So good thing they let that one die. And another 2K counter, another Machino, just hitting the bin, and only about 5 cards in hand, I think, for this Edward Newgate player. They're going to have to make something happen. No Dawn in this one, thankfully, or I'm sorry, no life left. Still all 10 Dawn though, so you could make something happen here at this point. Edward Newgate is now a viable option. You also could play like another ace. You could block her up with some Marcos. We did see some Marcos though hit the bin off of counter from the slew of 6K swings that came last turn and the turns prior, so may not be something that they do. It could be interesting, especially with the blockers, and this is maybe something that you worry about with the blockers, right? They could get bottom decked, right? Who says they don't have an effect? They'll be at 4 Dawn next turn. That's plenty of Dawn to be able to potentially maneuver around minus a character and then bottom deck it. So could spell a little bit of trouble here. The good news is at 4 Dawn, a lot of these characters are just going to be swinging bare minimum numbers potentially next turn. So going to be playing the Edward Newgate, going to be putting them to a 8,000 power leader until their next turn. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out, because the boost of power could spell trouble with only 4 Dawn available. But there's one thing that maybe they should be thinking about. With 1 Dawn left on the board, there are 2 Sharias at this point on the field. So if I was Edward Newgate, I would be swinging at the Sharias. There's no blockers on field. You got to get rid of some of these bodies, and so swinging 8, going to be swinging at that Shariah. I think it's a very, very good call right there. The Shariah is only 6, so they've got to commit 2 cards to keep this Shariah alive, a 2K and a 1K, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Going to be a Sachi and Penguin and that Trafalgar Law promo. And so here we go. The Shariah's going to be at the ready, copying when attacking the leader's power. And since Newgate, the Edward Newgate leader, is going to be an 8,000 power body until their next turn, right now those Shariahs can swing for 8 with no Dawn commitment. And that's exactly, I think, what's going to happen here. Just going to be spreading out the power overall. Going to start by chipping away with 8. So getting a 4,000 power boost, and oh my goodness, you see the Edward Newgate player leaning across the table saying, oh no, and that's the power of the Shariah. Definitely an insane combo. That's exactly why Shariah is one of my favorite cards in the set. Absolutely beautiful card, and they're just going to scoop it up. Not a lot of counter in hand in there. Not going to be able to stop the slew of swings coming in at that point. So actually, could they have stopped it? Shariah swings 8. They pitch a 2K counter. Shariah swings 8. They pitch a 2K counter. They still have Radical Beam, which would get out of another, but they would have to commit a couple. But it wasn't looking very good for the Newgate player. And so they, I mean, with all of those bodies and still 3 life left for the red purple law player, it was a not good ending to that one for at least the Newgate player. So maybe give our judge kind of giving some tips. So the old Keith, the old commissioner of the league, but very, very fun game. I hope you enjoyed that one. I don't have deck lists for this event. That's something that I'm going to try to work on in the future, getting the deck lists for the event, but I will make sure to link in the comments below some good OP06 Red Purple Law and Edward Newgate lists for you to be able to check out and play for yourself if you want to. So thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. We got a couple more rounds in this tournament, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.